Here we go. We are back with daily Football Manager content for the first time since moving home. And just look at this thing of beauty. Look at it. We are quickly washing away the disappointment of FM25 being cancelled with, well, a trip down memory lane on several nostalgic journeys. We are starting, as you can see, with Football Manager 2006 as we dedicate, well, whatever time remains between now and FM26 to Let's Retro on the channel. We are going to head through several of the old FMs, do some fun saves purely for enjoyment, and we're going to start today with my beloved and the original championship dream. Luton Town promoted to the EFL Championship for the 05-06 season. They sold their star youngster Curtis Davis to West Brom. None of the money got reinvested because the club was being run by crooks. And we have now got to try and survive against the odds before building a team that can compete, potentially, for promotion to the Premier League. This is going to be a difficult one because Luton Town have not got the biggest squad in this save. So we're going to have to hoof the ball to Steve Howard and head our way out of trouble. Let's go and head into our brand new series from Football Manager 2006. As from now, every weekday over the coming months, we're going to retro from Football Manager. Yes, hello and welcome along to part 1 of our FM06 Let's Retro save with Luton Town in the EFL Championship. We are back today to begin our save by having a look at the squad we've inherited and what we've got to work with for this summer as we head into the first championship season for Luton in what was, in real terms, a pretty tumultuous decade for the club. 4 administrations, several point deductions, and in the end 3 successive relegations which started in 2007. But this was the one moment in the decade where there was no worry of a manager idol. There was no worry about panorama investigations. It was just about a pure moment of joy. Promotion after winning the title from League 1, Division 2 as it was in the early 2000s, and into the EFL Championship. But without a star man, Curtis Davis sold to West Brom for a club record £3 million, none of the money given to the club to reinvest. And they had to try and survive on a shoestring budget. Are we going to be able to do it? Well, over the next few weeks, we're going to find out and see where we can take this Luton Town team. As I've said before in our previous channel update, there are going to be no defined expectations for any of these retro saves this year. We are simply going to play until we either get sacked, stop enjoying it, or reach a natural conclusion. And if any of those things happen, we'll of course find out along the way. For now though, we are going to go and meet the players and the staff and the budgets we're going to be working with at Luton Town. And of course remember, for those of you who are a bit younger than us, wages and transfers weren't quite as silly back here. We were only, 1 year into the Roman Abramovich era at Chelsea, which ended up probably changing the Premier League for the long haul. So if you're looking forward to this retro series, then please do chuck a thumbs up on the video. I'd love to know if more of you are getting involved in old FMs and old series. Let us know down in the comments below who you're managing, what FM you're playing. Are you playing other retro football games? We're going to try and get LMA Manager working later in the year. But now it's Luton Town and that is the main focus. I'm so excited for this. I'm sure that will dissipate as soon as the season starts and we begin to lose games. Let's go and look at the players and staff we're working with in this old retro feel. I've gone with the original skin, but these were the days where you got to choose between 4 or 5. And I know everyone hated the cappuccino one, so I might chuck that on at some point as well. Maybe we'll do a different skin for each episode in the first 4 or 5, and then you can decide which one you like the best. I'm loving the retro, but let's start with something that's not quite so good. If we head to Luton Town and we have a look at the staffing, we have got a fairly small team of staff, but it's a team that should be able to do a job for us. And the beauty you've got in the old football managers like this is it wasn't you can have 4 coaches, 2 scouts, 3 physios, whatever. You just had a budget. And if you hadn't spent it, you could keep adding to your team. So working with us, we've got legend Brian Steen as the assistant. Not a very good coach, as you can see. But in terms of the mental side, very good. Tactical knowledge is there. Judgment of ability and potential. Absolutely crucial for us with the team reports. We've got a few coaches who are all pretty dismal. As you can see, Steve Sedgley's average. Dimitri Karin, a pretty average goalkeeping coach. Marvin Johnson, former legendary player. Probably the best of the coaches on the technical side. And Marlon Beresford, who is also our goalkeeper, is another goalkeeping coach who's learning his trade too. Here's someone who's out injured at the start. And one of those weird goalkeepers beginning who doesn't have the reflexes but has everything else. I'll give you a little spoiler alert early. Probably going to try and replace him. Mick Ross is the first of two physios. His rating is 12, and I think John Murray is exactly the same. And as we head down a little further to the scouts, Ian Snodding, pretty average it must be said, and Gary Allen, not too bad at all. This is a staff and a team that probably wasn't ready for the Championship when it got there. It was a League One side that really did well over the course of a season and had some great young players come through at the same time. So with that in mind, let's go and look at the squad and the players we're going to be working with. The Luton under-18s include a few players that went on to have decent careers. Calvin Andrew, probably the hottest prospect among them. Got a really interesting balance of attributes here. It'll be intriguing to see how he develops. Zach Barrett, a goalkeeper, again, someone who's got a little bit in the locker for the future. Lots of good young keepers at Luton Town at this point. Most of the rest not worth looking at. In the reserve team, we have got, again, another good young goalkeeper in Dean Brill, who went on to have a pretty decent EFL career. You can see the reflexes, the handling, the aerial reach, all of the key stuff isn't bad. And he's also got that massive jump. He's got good positioning, things that later deserted him in Football Manager. Dino Semeret is pretty much a reserve at this point. You're going to try and sell him. He's not a very good keeper. He's worse than most of the youngsters. And he barely actually ended up playing a game for Luton in real life. He played 7 in the League One promotion season and didn't play much after that. I particularly like the highlight of composure of 1, as well as positioning and handling of 6. Into midfield, experienced Paul Hughes, who's a little bit over the hill. I mean it politely, but he's earning over £1,000 a week. Yes, he's a good footballer. He's a good creative player, but he's on a big wage. He's got no fitness, no stamina, and that's at 29. And if you remember in the old Football Managers, the physical attributes from 30 onwards just used to nosedive massively. And the same going the other way. This was like the old FMs06 and 07, where everyone who was young, their strength just went up massively. So this is someone who probably isn't going to stay here. If we can get a bit of money in and get a bit of wages off the books, then great. Let's look at the other youngsters that we've got in midfield positions though. Stephen O'Leary is a pretty decent prospect at the age of 20. Went on to play for Luton quite a lot. He's going to hopefully go out on loan and get a little bit of experience elsewhere. And Michael Leary, another youngster, not quite of the same age and probably, given his determination and some of his other mental attributes, will be moved on as a transfer as well. Because he's out of contract at the end of the year. And I can't imagine he's good enough for a new one. Unless we go down, which hopefully we won't. Let's move to the senior team now, where all of the stars are sitting. We've got 2 goalkeepers. You've already seen Marlon Beresford, who we probably will look to replace this year. But Rob Beckwith is the other young one, who again will try and get out on loan because he is a real prospect in this game. Good decision maker, very decent young goalkeeper at just 20. And with a season of football and maybe 1 or 2 attribute point improvements across the board, could become a very good player in a championship in the future. Then it starts to look a little bit better though. The defence contains a number of established pros and a couple of young stars, starting with Leon Barnett. Of course, went on to play in the Premier League in real life, just 19 years of age. Very good young player. Not the best technically just yet, but he's got everything else and mentally he's pretty good. So he's someone who, despite having a lot of flair as a centre-half, we will try and get some football to. Of course, he's no Curtis Davis, who was moved on at the time, but we're not going to see any of that money. So there's no point getting held up about it. Let's move on to the vice skipper, Chris Coyne as centre-half, who is a very good defender. He is 16s and 17s in all the key areas. He's not too slow as well, something that did happen to him in later Football Managers, and mentally he's pretty good. You generally see a balance around this era. In FM06, everyone had really good attributes, and then in FM07, they probably overdialed it the other way. No one was really world-class, but here we've got a very good centre-half to start off with. Russell Perrett, maybe not quite so good. I've promoted him from the reserves. He's a 32-year-old, but he's on a minimal wage till the end of this season. Despite not having any natural fitness, he's actually held his pace pretty well for an experienced player. I know the acceleration doesn't match it, but I just thought as a 4th choice centre-half, if we're trying to get Barnet football and we've got 2 starters, let's just keep him in. He's not the priority to replace, because the other player who can start and the replacement for Curtis Davis in real life was Marcus Heikkinen. Now, he is another pretty good defender. Maybe not quite as good as Chris Coyne, but a slightly different type. One who can step forward with the ball, but maybe isn't quite so good in terms of his defensive or his physical attributes. But either way, a pretty solid player for now. And again, someone who we don't need to replace immediately. It gets very exciting at fullback. Well, I say fullback on the right-hand side because there are two young superstars in this team. Keith Keane is the first of them, who went on to play a good odd 250 odd games for Luton. He is a right back who can also play in midfield. You can see he's got a number of positions that he's comfortable in. And he is only 18, only on 600 quid a week. And I think, look, he's probably going to be the backup right back because the other young star is a superb player and went on to have a great career. But this guy, as a potential backup in centre midfield, is a good option because we've not got much depth in that area. And if he does improve quickly with football, and we can retrain him, this was the old days in FM where you could literally just set someone to retrain in centre mid and they would start doing so. So I think Keith Keane is going to be a star for the club, but maybe not in his preferred position of right back initially. Before we get to the other young superstar, we've got to deal with Sol Davis, who is our first choice left back at the minute. Not got bundles of pace, but defensively very good. Pretty aggressive, was infamous for one moment in his career, which was the karate kick tackle on Ricardo Fuller, I think it was, back at Stoke. But he is a very good player. He's determined, he's got the right mentality for it. And he's a solid fullback. So again, no priority to replace. But then we get to the superstar. A man who became an Irish international, a Premier League regular. Kevin Foley is a 20-year-old right back. You can see he's very solid. He's balanced across the board. He's got good attributes. And he looks like he's going to be a superstar. The only problem I've got is that he's only got 1 year left on his contract and he's worth pretty big money. Just want to see, to give us an indicator, whether we can give him a new one. Okay, it's a big wage increase from what he's on, but it's not more than a lot of the first teamers. And as you can see, we're quite a way under our wage budget after promotion. So if we can get that minimum fee release out, this could be a really important deal for us because I think Kevin Foley is going to be the star we build around in the future if we stay up. Either that or he'll be the man that pays for the rest of the team if we replace him and sell him on for a few million quid. Don't forget, no instant negotiations with contracts or anything back here. You had to confirm your offer and wait a few days to get your response. We'll go and do that with a few more in a minute as well. On the left-hand side, we now move into midfield, but someone who can cover at left-back if need be, Paul Underwood, and he is going to start to explain our tactical decisions in a minute. He was a pretty unremarkable player, a solid pro, a steady Eddie, but he had one great attribute. He could put in an unbelievable cross, and as you can see, his crossing rating is 20 in Football Manager as well. So we're going to play him on the left. We've got a good crosser on the right as well, and we've got a big target man up front. So we're going old school here, and I think we're going to get some benefits from it. Paul Underwood is going to be a superstar for us. Hopefully we can keep him fit at 31. On the right-hand side, new signing Carlos Edwards will have to make do with a place on the bench. He has got the pace, he's got the dribbling, he's got the crossing ability, but he's not quite got the magic that a certain other Croatian sensation has got. Carlos Edwards, a very good addition to the squad though, and on a 3-year deal, so we don't have to worry about his contract for a while. Then we move into the middle with the skipper, Kevin Nichols, who is a superstar in this FM. The biggest thing he had, and it was realistic as well, is he was an unbelievable penalty taker, which is going to be crucial because we're going to need to take our chances this year. A very hard-working, solid defensive midfielder. No pace, no height, but just worked hard. And back then had very good stamina. He could go around all day. And a very good leader mentally, which is going to be really important for our squad. So Kevin Nichols, the first of two centre midfielders, can play naturally in the holding role as well if we find we need to move to a 3 in the future, or we get further up the pyramid and maybe find that useful for things like Europe or the Cup's a long way away. He could be someone who can help out there. Very much on the other side of the quality scale is utility man Peter Holmes. Now he ended up basically being a sub that came on or came into the team in any position in midfield in real life, but here he's not great. He's not championship level. He's an average League One player, but he is a solid backup on not much money. He's only got 1 year left on his deal and we wouldn't make much money if we sold him. So I think for now, we're going to try and sign a centre midfielder, of course, but we'll just keep him in the squad. Probably make him 4th choice behind our starters and Keith Keane, who would be the first choice sub to come on in there. But again, a decent utility man and not an instant replacement need. I'd rather keep him than Paul Hughes because he's on a lower wage, he's younger, he could improve and we could end up offering him a new deal. And he's also got better physical attributes if we need them, which is important. Onto the right-hand side, and the man that will probably keep Carlos Edwards out of the team at first, the original Croatian sensation, Ahmet Berkovic. He's a proper pro. Again, the only issue is 1 year left on his deal. He's wanted by a few clubs at the start, but not only has he got the crossing ability, he's still got the pace. He's mentally very good. He's just a better all-round player. He feels like less of an impact man. Was famous in real life for scoring scissor kicks all the time. He's got a good passing range too. Is someone who used to tuck in the middle. So he can go in there. He's fairly competent. If we do need desperate measures, we can go Edwards on the right, Berkovic in the middle or over on the left. But he is a proper start and will be a key part of our success this year. As hopefully will Northern Irish international Stephen Robinson, who of course has gone on to become a pretty successful manager in the SPL in real life. But back here, he was the playmaker, the bit of quality and gold dust in the Luton team. Good on set pieces, fantastic corner taker, great passer of the ball. Didn't really have the mental side, so his creativity, his little bit of vision didn't really match up with his passing range in the game. And he doesn't have the stamina again. We're a little bit light of legs in this team. And bar Steve Howard up front and Chris Coyne at the back were a little light on height. So the two key things you used to talk about in old FMs, Luton are very short on. But Steve Robinson is still a good player. And for now, will probably be our first choice centre mid unless we can find a superstar replacement. Then though, we move on to the area where we're most overloaded in this team because when Luton got promotion, they gambled on strikers. They bought in 2 new ones, they made a loan permanent, and they kept 2 original superstars. So, the first of 5 is Dean Morgan, who is an attacking mid and centre forward. Later became a left winger in FM07 annoyingly. He would have been perfect for that now. He's a 21-year-old with real potential. You can see all the key attributes are there. He's a striker who likes to run in behind. He's got the pace. He's got the composure and movement. He's got an okay personality in here. And crucially, he's got all the technical attributes you need to play both up front, number 10, and out wide. So he really is a player that could be useful for this team. And again, looking forward, if we want to strengthen the midfield and not go too defensive, we could chuck him as a number 10 behind a striker. But for now, he will be probably one of the 2 backup strikers, because we've got some superstars here. The next one is a Northern Irish international again. Warren Feeney is a 24-year-old striker who probably just edges Dean Morgan overall. Partly on work rate, slightly on pace. I know he's not got the natural fitness, but he's also a very good finisher. He's pretty solid across the board mentally. And hopefully, as a player with a little bit more experience, we'll be able to find a goal more often for us. A really decent player who it didn't really work out for at Luton. We're going to try and change and rewrite history there. The man he'll be playing alongside, though, is in absolutely no doubt, because there is one man that has to start in this team, and it's Steve Howard. 20 for heading, 20 for jumping, 20 for strength, 20 for bravery. He is a centre forward that you just love to have. The set piece threat, the man in the box for those Paul Underwood and Ahmet Berkovic crosses. At 29 years of age, doesn't rely on pace, so can probably go on for a few years. But the big 6'2" target man is going to be the cornerstone of my tactic. We're going old school 4-4-2. We're getting the ball in the box to this man, and hopefully he is going to score bucket loads. Because if he doesn't, Luton Town are going to be in trouble, as they were in real life when he ended up leaving a year later. The final 2 are both backup strikers, but the first one is an interesting one. A bit of a cult hero in the Nigerian striker Enoch Shawunmi. He is electric. He was pretty unpredictable, pretty inconsistent. You can see a composure of 6, not ideal for a striker. Despite being electric quick, didn't have the best off the ball movement, didn't really have the balance, didn't really have the agility, didn't really have the touch. Could finish though and could dribble with the ball, and was also an okay penalty taker. The other thing he had is he was a left footer of 6'6", a brilliant jumping reach, so an option off the bench if Steve Howard's ever injured to have a big target up there, but also competent on the left wing. Now, you may have noticed that we don't have a backup there at the moment. So having a backup left winger who could arrive at the back stick and be such a threat could be pretty important. And as a result, despite the fact he's wanted at the minute, I'd quite like to keep Enoch Shawunmi around. Westerlo are looking for him for now, but I think we're going to try and keep hold of Big Enoch. And the final man is a man who was crucial in the promotion push the year before, Rowan Vine. A little bit underrated in this FM, I felt. Again, very little in terms of composure. A bit of a weird striker. He was probably one of those deep-lying forwards before they came along. You look at his positions, he's not got any others there. But he is that type, isn't he? He's really good on the ball. He works hard. He's creative. He's a clever player rather than a natural centre-forward in this game. He's still got the stamina and the strength. He will be useful. But he just doesn't really suit the way Luton play in FM, and alongside Steve Howard, I guess if you were playing a creative type behind a striker who runs in behind, brilliant. But I can't leave Big Steve out, and that means Rowan Vine will probably have to make do with a place on the bench. So 4-4-2 is the way I want to go. You know what I think of the team. You can tell me what you think of it as well. But let's go through to the team report and have a look at what the assistant thinks. Brian Steen believes that Luton will have absolutely no chance of avoiding relegation unless the squad is strengthened in every department. Thanks, Brian. Really appreciate that. I feel so much more confident now you've said that. The team report suggests that the best 11 is, I think, exactly what I said. They've gone for Morgan over Feeney, but otherwise it's the 11 I've picked. My immediate priority is to try and get a new goalkeeper because I feel like we're going to need a brilliant shot stopper for this year. And then if there's 2 or 3 other positions we can improve, maybe where Steve Robinson is, maybe where Sol Davis is, then great. But if not, we've definitely got a decent team for the future. The second team leaves a lot more to be desired, and you can see where the lack of depth is. There isn't a backup left back of quality. There isn't a backup left winger or centre mid of quality, and Paul Hughes will probably be out as well. So not the ideal squad and not the ideal depth to compete in a championship, but we're going to give it a go regardless. The expectation at the start is to fight bravely against relegation, and to do that we've been given a transfer budget of £200,000 and a wage budget of 36 grand, which as you saw we're about 14 grand under a week at the minute, but don't get too excited. You saw we're already going to have to spend a grand of that on Kevin Foley, and there are a few others out of contract this year that I just have to get tied down. Kevin Nichols and Chris Coyne, captain and vice captain, both want wage rises, will both have to be offered new deals. That'll probably set us back another extra grand a week. And then we've got to make decisions on the likes of Underwood, Shawunmi, Robinson. A couple of the youngsters like Beckwith will definitely offer new deals too. And Ahmet Berkovic seems to want the biggest rise, but he will be 31 at the end of the year, so I might just wait it out and see how Edwards develops. But overall, a team that I feel very nostalgic about. I've got a lot of favourites in here. However, it's not going to be an easy job. It's a team that isn't good enough, according to the assistant manager. It hasn't got enough depth, there's no doubt in that. And we've not really got the budget to change it. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks in the transfer window. We're going to try and scour and find a few superstars. And hopefully, when we return tomorrow, we will have a team that is ready to compete at EFL Championship level. Now, our start to the season after the pre-season fixtures will be on the 6th of August against Preston. We're, of course, going to return and show you that first game there. We're underdogs for it already, as you can see. And I think that's going to be the trend for most of the games this year. It's a massive championship with some great teams in. Leeds were just in a second season after relegation. Leicester and Wolves down there. Southampton, they'd been relegated in 04-05, that final day, where West Brom had stayed up after being bottom at Christmas. And then you've got the likes of Sheffield United and Reading, who ended up in the championship not long after. So there is going to be a lot to deal with here. There are some high quality players in this championship, and not many of them are at my club, Luton Town. We're going to get to work. I hope you're looking forward to the start of a new series and a new season. Do you think we've got any chance of staying up? And where else do you think we should prioritise improving the team? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'll leave you on the finances screen so you can see just what state Luton Town are in at the moment. Not great is the situation. £1 million in the bank, but I'm pretty sure that will dwindle if we end up getting relegated. We will be back every weekday to continue this series, so please do stick around, subscribe and turn that notification bell on, because we are going to be doing several retro series from old Football Manager editions, and I really cannot wait. I'm enjoying it more than probably ever, and I hope you'll enjoy this year too. Please do chuck a thumbs up if you enjoyed this introduction. Come and join me again tomorrow for the first game of the season, and hopefully a few bits of transfer news as well. Let me know what old saves you're playing, or whether you're carrying on with FM24. And if you want a little bit more nostalgia while you wait for tomorrow's video, we have done a few seasonal updates from FM09 and Hamilton over the last year. You can find the 4th edition from last weekend up in the eye above. And of course, the whole playlist is there too. In addition to our Twitch channel for regular live streams, if you prefer the more modern game, we're carrying on with Football Manager 2024 over there. And of course, some of my FM24 stuff from here is up in the eye above too. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited, as you can probably tell. We are back tomorrow for our first game in charge of Luton Town, and I will see you there to see how we get on.